Black, I need you to define the term shank.
A person's leg, especially the part from the knee to the ankle. 2, a long, narrow part of a tool connecting the handle to the operational end. Verb, strike the ball with the heel of the club. And the second verb is slash or stab someone, especially with a makeshift knife.
Black, thank you. And to our listeners and viewers, that's exactly what we have in the studio today.
This is Caesar Walker, the cool, calm, collected one.
And I'm Ronnie Gatry, the emotional one.
And we are the Tipping Point Podcast, your source for the Black male's perspective.
Tipping Point Podcast.
We want to welcome back Judge Adrienne Powell to the Tipping Point. What's so good, Shane?
Hello.
Thank you, Black. Thank you for that.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
You know, Judge-Elect looks good on you.
Well,
how have you been?
Look, excited. Still excited. It hasn't really sunk in yet because I don't take dementia until January. And trying to get a little bit of rest. Most people don't realize I am still in private practice. So I'm still going to court. I still have my cases. I haven't shut that down yet. But at some point, I'm going to try to take a vacation so I can have that moment that I can transition and feel well-rested and ready to rock and roll.
That's what's up. Yeah. Hey, listen. Your boy over here was triggered on Election Day because I went to my poll and I didn't have Shank on my ballot. And I felt some type of way. I was turning tables over. You remember, Walker, I came in here hot. I know I texted y'all.
Yeah, you texted us.
I was hot.
Really?
Yes.
Oh,
I'm thinking they trying to like bamboozle me.
And see, here's what I always do. I bring him back down to earth. I level set.
But you let me get it out.
Right. I've learned to do that as well. I was like, did you ever notice any Adrienne Powell signs in your area? You was like, no. Then that's why you didn't see her name.
The fine print. But just know your boy was ready to support.
Well, look, I truly appreciate it.
Cool.
I'm not surprised.
And Adrienne, I'm going to say this. So I dug into the numbers, the metrics of the vote. You know how they can tell like where your votes came from?
Yes.
And a lot of them came from the podcast, so you're welcome.
Thank you.
And to add to that, I don't recall hearing the podcast mentioning the thank you speech when she won.
We're going to talk about it, Adrienne.
You know what?
We got beef with you in these streets.
Believe it or not, there hasn't really been that thank you speech out there yet. It's coming.
Okay, cool.
So the most that you have seen, which I'm hoping everybody saw, was just my Facebook post.
Yes, I did see that.
And so I try to cover everything. You all would have been in that category of friends.
Oh,
That's cool.
wait,
no.
Yes, she established us as friends. So
hold on. So I can get a Facebook post, but you can't. I see what we're doing. But that's okay. That's cool.
But
that's
you know
cool.
why?
I understand
Because
the
you
rule.
guys
I'm
are
learning
so
as I go.
special.
I'm learning as I go.
You all are so special that I knew if I pulled you out and just thank you all specifically and just say, hey, that everybody was going to be jealous. And so I didn't want to.
That's what we want.
You know, didn't want anybody to come up here and
Shank us.
I was saving you all.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah, she's saving us from subscribers.
Yeah, they can't handle success.
There will be a very big thank you coming soon, of course. You know, we have our investiture, and so when I'm sworn in, I will make sure you all are invited because
you gonna invite us?
You all are friends.
Wait a minute. You gonna invite us?
Of course.
Man,
absolutely.
Now that one, okay.
All
right. I'm gonna leave her alone.
Adrienne's back.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Definitely gonna do that.
No, but we definitely appreciate you coming back and see after. Just to give you a little background, those of you watching, when she came on the first time, we did the pod and we talked about high level stuff,
right.
Good conversation,
right.
But we chopped it up for almost an hour and a half.
We did.
Afterwards.
we went
Yeah,
out for a
her
minute.
intern had to leave.
Right, like she, yeah, and so to me, like I understand you don't know us. You definitely, didn't know us then. You were on the campaign trail, busy woman. Like you were extremely gracious with your time. And that stood out to me in major ways. Like I'll admit I was very biased toward, like, you could have had a terrible agenda as a judge, but I'm like, well, we just had to figure this out later.
Still gets my vote. Yeah,
you got my vote, right?
We're fixing in post.
Yeah. So I was impressed with that, and Gatry, it brought me back to when, just a few months prior to when Shank came on, we had some friends of ours who come on, and we just talk relationships. We just came on here and just kicked it, and I enjoyed that so much. And there were a few women that I wanted to continue that with on the podcast, and every now and again we'll come on, and we want to just chop it up. And I think too often, like, we talk in silos as men. Women do the same, and I would love for us to come together and just have conversations like that. It's kind of the way
as we did before the podcast.
As we did before the pod. There'll be more of that.
Spicy.
Oh,
It was spicy.
oh, what is that? Oh,
But it's all good. But what I do want to do is just that I want to just kind of hear a woman's perspective. She hear our perspective, not in a contentious, battle the sexist type style,
right.
but just to kind of hear something that you may not have heard a certain way. Okay. And just maybe those listening, man, you can, glean from it whatever you will, and we can have a productive convo. And so, and I thought about, I was sharing this with Gatry a few weeks back, and I know now that because of where we're going, like, if you're a single guy, even if you're married, times are different. Women have choices. Right. And meeting a woman who has a career, like, the dynamic of that puts things into question, right? And it kind of changes things. When I think of you, though, career woman is very baseline. Like, I think of you as a very ambitious woman. Like, it takes ambition to have your own private practice. Like, most people can just graduate law school, pass the bar, and cash out. Right. Like, I'm coasting to retirement, right? A lot of people do that. Some people shoot for partner. She did private practice, and after a while, here comes Judge. And last time I checked, I watched the process pretty closely. They didn't hand out any job applications for Judge, right?
That is correct.
That is correct. So it took a lot. Granted, you had built up a lot of goodwill for representing your clients as best you could, and your reputation ended up I think it was your currency when you got out, in the streets, and basically were with the people, showing up at events. I know you said you were tired that night. You couldn't even enjoy the win. You don't backdoor into that. You got to have some ambition about yourself. You got to have a serious drive to do that, and you did it. And so I look at you as a very successful, ambitious career woman. I think career woman is very baseline. I'm giving you your flowers.
Well, thank you.
But we have men who listen, and we're always thinking of them in terms of what content they can glean from and learn from, and just having the conversation. Do you agree with that? That is a difference between having a career and then being ambitious in life.
Yeah, I do. And first of all, thank you so much.
No problem.
Like you said, giving me my flowers. I'm one of those people the same way. And yes, we stayed over from that last podcast and we talked and talked. And believe it or not, I wasn't even thinking, hey, I'm on a campaign trail. I may need to get ready for the next day and all that. I wasn't even thinking, hey, I'm giving them additional time of my time. Not at all. It was just natural. I absolutely enjoyed you all. So I'm glad you all invited me back. I would come back 1,000 more times. I'm serious. With the robe
note
on
that,
and all of that.
A producer make a note of that.
We got it on camera.
Okay.
That's how you
Shank
know
will
it's
be
real.
back.
That's how you know
That means a lot, though.
That's how you know it's real.
For real, that means a lot.
I appreciate you all. I really do. But yes, I do agree. It is a lot. It is a lot. Private practice, like you said, it takes a different type of person, one, male or female, to build a private practice. You have to hustle. You have to get out there and bring in your own money, bring in your own clients. If you don't go out there and make a name for yourself, you're not going to get fed. That's just what comes with it. And so, like you said, you can have a career, which is nothing wrong with that. But to have like things like private practice or running for judge, it does take ambition because you have to step outside of the box on a little bit of everything. You have to go a little bit further than nothing wrong with a 9-to-5, but what a 9-to-5 entails. And it is a lot when you're married. I've been married now almost 14 years. And so,
Congratulations.
well, thank
Congrats,
you.
for real.
Thank you. And so when you have someone like me, who I believe is extremely driven, I've always been like that. It's just part of my personality, I guess. I can't stop it. So I'm always working. But you have to have a certain type of marriage and a certain type of spouse, especially when you're a woman, to have a certain type of husband that's willing to be understanding and know the time that you have to put in from private practice to even from me running for a judge. Like you said, I was everywhere. Coming home late, my husband probably don't know what a home cooked meal was, what that was going to be like for a while. So I agree with you. It's definitely a difference when you're ambitious versus just having a career.
And I think, it's almost kind of like luck of the draw because, I haven't been single in a long time. I'm right behind you with 10 years of marriage.
Oh, yeah.
But I can imagine if I'm seeing a woman, I'm not saying to myself, oh, man, she look at her and her career looking self. No, I'm looking at I'm looking at other things,
Sure.
obviously,
Right.
right? And so it's kind of like luck of the draw. You land a woman who's driven. You know what I mean? You get into it, a few dates in, you find out, whoa, this woman she is serious, right? What advice would you give to men, either in a relationship with dating or just in general, advice for men who may be involved with a woman who is driven or is very ambitious? If you could give them one piece of advice, what would you share with men who may find themselves in a relationship with a woman like that?
Honestly, just understanding, being very understanding. And what I mean by being understanding, there are going to be, when you have a woman that's driven like that, she is going to work past what you are expecting her to work. There's going to be hours that she's not going to be available to go places or do things as much as you would probably expect that. And so, in my opinion, if a man is understanding, that means he sees what she's trying to do. He sees what she's trying to achieve and know that it's for the better good of their marriage, as well as her career, and know that that's going to make her happy too. And so when you have a man that's understanding, he can kind of sit back and say, well, I know I may not get a meal cooked tonight, but it's not because she just doesn't do it. It's because I know she's tired, and I know she's working, and I know she's trying to achieve something, and I know that achievement is going to benefit both of us. If she cooks 2-3 days, or if we used to have date night every Friday, but we miss a Friday or two. Being understanding is that man saying, we're just not going out just because we're not going out. Let's try to do something at home. I know she has this going on, or she has this project or something. Let's change our date night to movie night in the house. When you have that understanding, at least for me, it makes me see my husband totally different. And for me, it builds on our love, because I say to myself, he's willing to have this sacrifice knowing that he could have some other woman that's probably going to cook every day. And so I appreciate him. And then it makes me, again, look at him totally different, and I love him even harder, because everybody may not do that. And so at that point, I'm saying, I'm blessed to have this. Just give me a little time. This is for us. And when you have that, again, I think everything works out. But you got to be a special type of man to to do that. But understanding would be the best thing for me. That I would say.
Adrienne, thank you for sharing that. Now, my dynamic in this podcast is just to be open and honest and vulnerable. So I'm about to bring that to you.
Okay, let's see it.
You make me think of a lot. I was my wife's an entrepreneur, highly successful. But in terms of the foundation and building that, I was not that understanding husband. I wasn't. I had expectations. Now I did a poor job of voicing them to her, but I had a high set of expectations. And one of the things you made me think of was when she was getting her business off the ground, there were a lot of late nights. And I was that dude at the house pacing around like, man, where's my wife? You know what I'm saying? Like, and then I was calling every 10 minutes. You know, like I was wearing her out. But what you make me appreciate is like fast forward through all the years, and it's been, my wife and I have been married 13 years. It has been a journey.
Oh, yeah.
Mostly for her. I have a lot to deal with, Adrienne. You know this. But one thing you made me think about and really appreciate is like over time, I've adapted to that mindset of like, this is what my wife set out to do. And it reminds me of like when we were dating and she was on the floor in the midst of all her books. Right. You know what I mean? Right. And I will watch her study for hours. And I'd get a chance to say, what are you doing this for? Like, what are you working for? Right. And, you know, I lost sight of that when we got married. But as we progressed, I just, you know, I had to just breathe. I had to take a minute and just be like, you know, she prepared me for this.
That's true.
So just support as much as you can and get out the way.
What? Right. Let me ask you this.
Right.
Let me ask you this, Gatchery. What expectations did you have?
Oh my goodness, man. Uber traditional was this guy. You're going to be at the house at a reasonable hour, you know, before 6:00. And there's gonna be a party in the kitchen every night. You know, like, yeah, you gonna cook. And with my limited mindset, I looked at her family dynamic, and that's what it was. So I'm like, why you not doing this for your boy? You know what I mean? So it was that, and you said so much that reminded me of how I was. It was that we're gonna have to do the date night. We're newlyweds, so we're going to be out in these streets. We're gonna we have to do the dinner parties. Right. We got to do all the things that feed my social foundation. It was very selfish now I think about it because my wife's not nearly as social as I am. But like when those things stopped happening, I was like, man, we're doomed. We're doomed as a couple because we're not meeting that expectation that I set that I only left up here. I did not communicate that, and when I did, it was out of anger. It was overly emotional, and it never ended up well.
So when did it change? And why did it change?
We're interviewing you. You're not supposed to come up with it. No, that's a good question. I would say when my oldest son was born. Okay. Because it didn't stop the hustle for my wife. But at the time I was unemployed and I was still I was in a deep state of depression too. I was battling a lot of demons, and my wife was still out there getting it. You know what I mean? Right. And so it took me seeing her in the light of like, here's my wife who's, you know, full functioning, breastfeeding, cleaning bottles, doing all this stuff it takes to be a mom to a newborn, and she's still out there getting it. Oh, yeah. And I'm like, man, okay, it clicked for me then. She's really serious about her profession. She's not playing around with this. This is not just a job for her. This is a passion project for her. Right. That's when it kind of started, and I gained more of an appreciation of what she's trying to build, and that's when the support train for me started. Now it took a while, but that's when my mindset shifted. So yeah.
And you know, sometimes it helps, in a lot of men don't necessarily see behind the scenes. And I don't know about your wife, but for me, I was working or doing whatever it is to make AP Law Office what it is today. You know, private practice is hard. Like I said before, if you don't bring in the money, you don't make any money. Mm-hmm. And when you pass the bar, nobody says, hey, I'm going to send you 20 clients to get you off the ground. You know, they don't. And so you start from scratch. But at least for me, I don't know if my husband necessarily saw behind the scenes, meaning, yes, I'll be exhausted, but it takes a lot mentally to work like that. Like you said, for your wife to be on the go, still trying to cook here now, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right. Still somewhat trying to be a wife, being a mother, but no, she want to build this practice. I don't know for her, but my thoughts would be, mentally, it is draining because we're pushing ourselves to the limit. And you have to be a whole different mindset of a female to do that. And I don't know if I never really sat down and said anything to my husband and said, hey, you know, I am like this close to just tearing this house apart because I have so much going on. I don't think I ever did that. But that's because I was too focused on getting where I needed to go, do what I need to do, and like you said, just working. But I will say, as like some advice, men should say to themselves, if they are doing all of this, you got to know it's a lot. And so mentally, it may be a lot on them. Physically, it may be a lot on them because we may not be expressing that. But it is. You know, it is. It's a lot, period, to be on the go and do so much to build that career like that.
Yeah. That's good. Let me ask you this. Now, we talked about advice for men, but for the ambitious woman, because I'm assuming that there are women who are listening who have goals, passion projects. What advice would you give to them? Because as the saying goes, life goes on. Yeah. And even though you're pursuing, you're trying to get this dream off the ground, turn it into a well-oiled machine, you still have a marriage to maintain.
Right.
His need, even though he's understanding,
right,
he still has needs.
That is
he
correct.
still hears voices in his head, right? Mm-hmm. And for the woman who wants the career, wants her dream, but she still wants her man, what advice do you give that woman?
Again, I can't speak for everyone. Everybody has different marriages. Women are different. I can tell you what I try to focus on and what I believe has worked for me in my marriage. It was organization for me. And what I mean by organization, I mean where we just automatically was going to look for something to go to before, my schedule got crazy. We just automatically look for somewhere to go to. And I knew we would always be out on the scene or, I'm going to look for recipes to cook. It was just fun. Once I realized I got super involved in my, my career, at that point, you start to get organized. You have calendars as far as what you have going on with your business. Mm-hmm. I had to put my husband on the calendar. And what I mean by that is I had to intentionally make a date night. Even though I can't do it every week where we may have been doing it 2-3 times out and about, or I was cooking all the time, I had to stop and say, well, now I'm going to have to do it at least every other Friday. I'm going to put this time aside. I'm going to catch up on as much work as I can beforehand so I can have that free time to do this. Let's catch a late movie. Let's catch a matinee. So you have to be intentional with your marriage. You have to be intentional on the things that you want to do. And like you said, we are all adults here. You have to be intentional in every single way. And sometimes it takes more and it becomes an effort where before it was effortless. Now you may say, okay, I got to put that time in where I'm exhausted or I may not. It's just not going to be as often, but you just have to make sure, like I said, you're intentional on what you're doing.
That's good.
Wow. You went somewhere there, Adrienne.
Where did she go?
Tell you what worked with me.
Adrienne, I'm over it. Okay, I am. But Adrienne, there was a point to where I did not feel like I needed to be on a calendar.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like a calendar, Adrienne.
I'm just being honest.
Yeah, and you're saying what's
work. You wouldn't see calendar. You wouldn't see calendar. My husband doesn't see calendar. I'm telling you, in my mind, it's calendar.
Okay.
But of course, my husband doesn't see calendar.
Okay. Now that nuance is a difference maker. Okay. But, all right.
But let's go there. Like, why do you want to be put on the calendar?
Well, in my mindset, again, disclaimer, my thought process is different now. But there was a point to where the calendar came up in conversation. And I was triggered by that because, like, I don't know if your top priority should be calendar. I don't have to, at the time, I don't have to calendar a diaper change. I don't have to calendar picking my child up. That's my boy. Like, I am going to do these things because he is a major priority. And so with my very acute vision at that time, I took it kind of like an insult. Because one of my things was I didn't put her on the calendar.
Well, and when I say calendar, not in the literal sense, there is not a, May, June, July, something.
Right.
And
right.
so when I say calendar and when I say my husband's not aware of it, it was a mental calendar for me. It was, wait a minute, Shank. You hadn't cooked all week.
Yeah.
Today is Thursday. You have a project on, Friday, or you have a project on Monday. You probably can get to it then. Let's do the cooking tomorrow. And so it was a mental thing,
Gotcha.
a mental calendar.
I got you.
Or me and my husband, hey, I realize it's Wednesday, and I know we didn't go anywhere last week, and it's Wednesday, and we still hadn't went anywhere. What do you have going on tomorrow? Let's move that to Friday and make a conscious effort to catch a matinee movie. My husband, he was none the wiser. It would just be me give an idea and say, hey, let's do the movies tomorrow. Now, for me, I said to myself, I need to intentionally do something tomorrow. I need to make sure we go to the movies tomorrow. But he doesn't know that. So it looks like it's somewhat right. And we're getting some normalcy again. Right. A little bit of piece of it. And he's like, okay, great. Again, you have to it's a conscious effort.
True. Yeah.
So we talk a lot about, personal goal of mine, Adrienne, is to develop men and help men be better in every aspect, spiritual, mentally, emotionally,
yes,
physically, socially, financially. Like we're bringing in plenty of guests to tackle these different areas. And so one of the things that we're encouraging men to do, and we haven't talked about it yet, we were going to talk about it a few weeks back, but was this thing of purpose and finding your passion, finding something that gets you up in the morning, something that causes you to go out and just get it, right? Let's have some fun here.
Okay.
What do you say to the couple that you have a woman who's on her purpose, pursuing her passion, but she's also dating a man who's equally as driven and is out here getting it as well?
Ooh, I like it.
What do you say to that, Dana? Because that can happen.
Oh yeah,
that does. Because again, for most men, it's not like you see this one man like, ooh, look at that career-looking, driven woman there. No, it's man, who is that with them curves and the way she wear that? You know what I mean? It's like, who is that? You know what I mean? So once you get together and you get to know one another and you have conversations, you have a few dates, you find out, oh, this woman is cut like me a little bit. Like she's got a passion for life and vice versa. How do you make that work given that both your schedules are busy?
Believe it or not, I don't think that's complicated at all. If they're both like that, in my opinion, they're not really probably noticing that certain things are not occurring because they're both driven. They're both out and about. And they're probably just going to come together automatically because they both have that same type of passion to be career and working in late hours. I don't really think it's much that you have to say to them and say, hey, how do we make sure we maintain and keep this marriage going? Sometimes they're both so involved, they probably just like the fact that they're both involved like that. I'm going to just be honest with you. And if that's not the situation, then I don't think it changed. The advice doesn't change from one person that's not as, such a workaholic as the other one. I think it's still the same. In order to keep marriages, I don't care who works the hardest or whatever, in my opinion, you have to keep them fun. So even where I said, hey, I may say a matinee movie here with my husband, whether he's working as hard as me or I'm working, none of that matters. You still have the same thing. You got to keep it fun. You got to keep it interesting. You got to keep the laughter there. And sometimes, believe it or not, it may not be a out and about thing. That's just our personality. It works for us. I know some couples that honestly, they love just being in the house. And you know, and that's the fun. They just saying, we don't have to do the matinee. I just want you at home. And so if you have two people that are equally as driven, at some point they are going to be at home at the same time. And that may be their time. That may be what worked for them. Their time to unload and talk about their day, that may be perfect for them. So it just kind of depends on the marriage. It kind of depends on the person. And so as long as it's fun either way and you find your niche, I think you're good. But if nothing else, again, marriages, the longer they are, in my opinion, they get boring. You got to keep it interesting. Let's just be realistic. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say, ooh, it's always. No, you have to work towards that. And the longer it's out there, it gets even harder. You have to work even harder towards it. For me, it's the laughter. For me and my husband, it's the fun. We don't always have to be out and about. We get in there and play games and turn it into something else, and we are good. That makes perfect for our night, and I can get up and start Thursday working like crazy, and he's good because we had our time together. It's just making time. It just works for, you know, different people, but whatever works for your marriage.
Thoughts, gentlemen?
Adrienne, I'm getting checkbox vibes.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean by that?
No, give me.
So like, and I'm using my wife as an example. My wife's very driven, career oriented.
Okay.
She operates off to-do lists.
Okay.
And so at times, my wife has been guilty of kind of like the calendar thing. Okay. We had done this, check. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. All right, let me do this so I can check this off.
What's wrong with that?
What's right with that?
I don't see an issue.
Maybe I'm still, maybe I've
Is
still
it getting
gotten
done? Is it being done? Does it matter that it was checked off her list? Doesn't it matter that it's just being done? Why do you care that it's a checklist?
because I'm emotionally unstable.
Gotcha.
And big picture, no, it doesn't matter. My wife threw me a surprise birthday party for my 40th. No, my wife, it was on the list. So,
great, she accomplished it.
But reality has proven that was one of the best nights of my entire life.
Look, if it's on a checklist, I don't see anything wrong with it.
Okay.
In my mind, it's getting done. I have a checklist all the time. Life for me is a checklist. I don't know why my brain operates like that, but it does. In my mind, as long as it's getting accomplished, whether it's in my personal life or work, it's being taken care of. So where she may have checked it off, you had a blast. You had your 40th surprise birthday party. Doesn't matter how it got there.
True.
It got there.
True.
And you know what she felt? Ooh, I accomplished something else on my checklist. We love it. I love getting things down on my to-do list. She probably was so happy that party went off like it did.
She was.
She's a
And
wife of the year
Adrienne,
now.
sidebar, be careful who you trust, okay? Because there are people who will keep a lot of things from you, you know what I'm saying, and set you up, have you walking around in these streets.
Is that right?
You know what I mean? I'm not talking about anybody in here,
I
but
figured
you know,
about
just
it
just a life tip. Adrienne, I want you to share something with me.
Okay.
Okay. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you about your boy. I feel like in my life I got a lot of success early, or what I deem to be success.
Okay.
I had a house at a very young age, had a great career that I still don't know how I've managed to do that. But I had a lot going for me in terms of, like, I don't want to say superficial, but you know, life was great. And so here I am feeling myself really at one point not thinking I would ever get married. Like I was content with being single.
Okay.
I was going to proceed my life the way I did. Here comes this woman out of nowhere who rocks my world, right? To the point to where I decide to marry her. Now, I still have the mindset, Adrienne, like I feel like I planted my flag and I'm like, I got the house, I got the job, I got the wife, I'm handling everything. Like, I have got this, right?
Okay.
So here comes my wife, who her career pays a lot more than mine ever will. And slowly but surely, like, she starts her business and things start to uptick in terms of financial success. Adrienne, your boy struggle. Putting yourself in that situation, let's say I was mature enough at the time to share this like I'm sharing it now. What would you say to your husband at the time who was dealing with that?
You know, honestly, I'm trying to, and again, not to say, if my husband was here, he probably have something totally different to say. I used to wonder that when we first started, because I knew at some point I was going to be an attorney. I intended to be successful. And I knew at some point, like I said, it would be a judge or politics, something.
Oh, so you were still grinding when y'all said I do.
Oh yeah, I've been grinding for a long time.
Okay. Like I'm saying, you wasn't an attorney yet.
No.
Okay.
No. So my
Okay.
husband and I, we met when I was in high school. So he knew me before, we were kids, and so
He knew Shane.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
And so I think what happened, my husband, we took different career paths. He's a barber, so of course schooling and everything, he has his own shop, schooling and everything is, of course it's less time, so he was able to get into his career and financially was doing well before I was doing well. I was, still trying to work it out. But again, this is law school and all of this. Right. But then at some point, God blessed me where financially doing quite well. I don't believe my husband had that moment of, she's making more than me. How is this going to play out? I think for us, it was, again, he saw the benefits for both of us. And maybe had you said to yourself then, yes, my wife is now making more than me, or any other husband. I started out as the one making the most, and now she's here. My advice to them would be just to stop and say, this benefits us both. And if it benefits us both, then I'm not getting the short end of the stick at all. She's done as much as me, and now we're just climbing higher. She's a little bit higher, but she's bringing me what we combine. We're forced to be reckoned with financially, if nothing else. And I think that's what my husband saw. I think he saw, oh, okay, I'm doing well. She's starting to do pretty good. Hey, I'm okay with that, because where we went from a 1-bedroom apartment on the south side, income together is totally different now. And so I think that would be my advice to husbands. You just have to say, what are we thinking future-wise? Is this going to benefit us both? If so, then I don't care that there's a change in his income bracket, that she's doing more than what I started out doing. It should just feel natural.
Why do you think we struggle with that from time to time?
I don't know. You all would need to tell me as the man.
I was seeking a woman's perspective, but okay.
She's wondering, she's wondering
just like
okay.
you have
Okay.
to tell me as the
What
man.
would you say?
Well, I could tell you about me. For sure. It was pride was driving that, and I was very selfish, and I thought a lot of myself, and I didn't even really sink in and absorb the team aspect of marriage.
Right.
It was just like, it was kind of a little bit of envy.
She added to you, though.
Exactly.
She made you look, now you have everything that you said. On top of that, now you have a wife that everybody's saying, wow, she doing it big out here. She married to Ronnie. She added to what you already had. You should have saw it as a plus. Not only financially, but the look of it.
Yeah.
You got a wife, somebody probably saw your wife and thought, man, she has her own business. She's probably doing great. Wish she could have been my wife, but she's Ronnie's wife. Now you got a beautiful wife that everybody know financially, whether they know she's making more than you or not important, but But she added to what made you great in your mind. what made you successful. To me, she added to that success. And to me, that's what every man should look at it that way. And I think that helps. It shouldn't be, and it may be pride, like you said. I understand.
For me, it was, yeah.
And it's probably like that with a lot of men. But she was a plus.
Let me ask you this, Gat. At that age, did you know your identity?
No way. No chance.
So I guess what I would say in a situation like this is when you know who you are, when you know this is a chair, you treat it differently than you would a refrigerator, right? Just by simple identification.
I don't
know. This guy right here. This guy. No, but seriously, like when you can identify something, you get a step closer to identifying its purpose and you act accordingly, right? And I think for a lot of men is understanding what you have been put on earth to do. Going back to the basketball, I think I may have said this offline before, but the basketball analogy. I'm a point guard. I'm never going to get jealous of you because you out-rebound me. Or even you may score more points than me. But I'm really good at being a point guard. I understand my role. I understand what I've been put here to do, right? So you and I aren't competing with one another, and I'm not jealous of your productivity because I'm in my role fulfilling my purpose. I know what I do. I know what I bring into the situation. And I think too often, even if the woman may not be uber successful, I think we can easily be thrown off by her success because we haven't fully come into the knowledge of who we are.
Right.
And I think that would be kind of like my advice is it's easy to celebrate other people's success when you found your own. And you understand the fulfillment that comes from your success. When I don't have that, I do become shaky with someone who's secure in their future and their success. You know what I mean? And it can become a them against me sort of thing. And I don't appreciate what that person who was for me would bring to the table because I'm not on my purpose.
And it's confidence. You know, that too.
Come on.
I mean, really, it is.
Yes.
And I know I continue to bring my marriage, but I can only give you examples of
Sure,
that's fair.
A personal thing. Like I said before, my husband brags probably more about my role in my career than I do. I am very, you probably wouldn't even know I was an attorney unless you saw me out or you just specifically asked me. I know lawyers that as soon as they open their mouths, they're going to tell you they're a lawyer. We like the title. We like what comes with the reputation of being an attorney. We like what comes with the thoughts of the prestige. All of that comes with being a lawyer. Let's just be realistic about it. Whether you private practice in a firm, people look at us differently. We love it. Me, I've had people say, just the way you dress, I wouldn't even know you was an attorney. I said, well, I'm not in court. What are you expecting a lawyer to look like outside of it? I'm still going to do what I do. But my husband is the opposite. We can walk in a room. If he can announce to the world, my wife a lawyer, he would.
Yeah.
He brags. He wants to put me in the front to be seen because in his mind, it truly makes him look even better. He looks at me as, like I said, I'm an addition to what he already feel like he has going on. I'm an asset to what he already has going on. And so even like the Judge-Elect thing, financially, yes, we're going to be good. If my husband was making 10 times less than me, it's the confidence in it. He does not care. He is proud in what I have going on. And so, again, it depends on the person. It truly do. Like you said, you have to be secure in your own success and sometimes you're secure in yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's what my husband and I, and so I don't know if you can give advice to somebody and say, you need to have confidence. It's just there. But
confidence
it
helps,
could be, it does, but it can be something that they could say to themselves if they're aware of it and say, well, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's me. So let me just work on then won't come to maybe just work on me.
And I said this before. I said confidence comes from a place of competence.
It's true.
Like when I found something in life that I'm good at, I'm good.
Right.
Right? Because that's my go-to. Right. And so when I listen to your example, your experience, I hear a husband who's already doing what he wants to do.
That's true.
So and that goes back to kind of finding purpose in what you're doing. It's why would I be threatened or intimidated when I'm doing what I wanted to do? If I wanted to be an attorney, I would have done it.
Right.
But I'm doing what I wanted to do. I probably wouldn't be happy being an attorney because I really wanted to be a barber. Right? Yeah. And so that's what I think the key to it is life. I think it's a win-win when you find when you are secure, you're not thrown off by other people who found what they feel they've been called to do.
Right.
So let me ask you this, Shank. I got single homeboys. You got single girlfriends. I tell my wife this has to work. I don't want to go back out there ever. Right? I know you have peers who are just as ambitious as you. They may not be as fortunate in their love life as you. What are they saying?
I do have friends that are, as I say, go-getters. And I have a couple in mind
Black
soon as you.
seat. He's come alive now.
And it's funny you said that. And seriously, I had some female friends that come to mind that are single, that are, man, they're doing great. They are beasts out there in their career, but they are single. And I've had those friends to sit and talk to me and say, Shank, what am I not doing? You've been married. How's this working? Honestly, I don't know if I have the advice to say, hey, you should have been doing X, Y, Z. You would have had a man. I don't have that. I truly don't. Yeah. But when I have those conversations with my friends, I do stop and say, well, maybe you're going to have to come away from the work schedule a little bit. You're not out there because you're constantly working and it's that same routine. You're seeing the same people. So let's put some time to the side where you step away from the work hours. And just like the marriage, you got to get out there. You got to see things. You got to have some fun. And if you're not out there seeing things, having fun outside of this current constant hustle, you're going to be single. And so once they're out there and they meet someone, at that point, everything else just kind of naturally takes over. You're going to click with this person or you're not. They're going to know what her career is coming out the gate, and it's either going to work or it's not. So I can't say, I have the advice of, for those particular friends that are work-driven and are single. But I've had those conversations, and normally I just suggest, hey, even with a marriage, I have to stop and take that time outside of the work and do other things. You gotta have fun.
Yeah.
So what do you tell? Because I'm assuming you have friends.
Yeah, I do.
Adrienne's giving us our own medicine.
I know.
I'm just curious.
I like it. I'm here for it.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I understand people are different, but I can listen and see fundamental things that people, I'm like, hey, be open. Like with guys, it's a little different because guys are the hunters. They're the ones approaching. And with one of my friends, it's a matter of, I think he has, and we kind of talked about this. I'm going to flip it for the guys. I think he has a bit of a choosing or an evaluation issue with some of the women he's involved with. Now, women are very attractive. He's prioritizing the beauty portion of it. But when I talk to him, it's headaches. Constant headaches. There's always something. Now, he's with someone now, and I believe that's been going, better than the others. But for these guys, it's okay. How are you evaluating her? And it's the advice I give is not to tell you what to do, but the advice is mostly for you. It's not necessarily for that person.
Right.
What are you evaluating? Okay. Is your judgment clouded? Because sometimes we can get intimate with a person and it's like being drunk taking a test. You don't have all your mental capacity while you're trying to focus on what you should be focusing on, right? And so for a lot of my guys, you know, I kind of encourage them, hey, make sure you're evaluating this person as sober as you can, because it's fun. I mean, again, you meet someone that's new, it's exciting, it's, you know, and you should enjoy it. But I believe there's an alignment component of it that you need to determine, okay, we're attracted to each other, we get along, we can talk for hours. I enjoy this person's company, but the trajectory of our lives, are we heading in the same place, right? And if you aren't able, if that's what's causing the friction, then unless one or both are ready to make some major adjustments to get on the same page, I'm not sure if she's the one. But you got to come to that conclusion on your own. So those are things I kind of talk to my guys about, is just your evaluation of the person. Like what, and the things that you want in life. Does that match?
So let me make sure I understand. Is this the advice you're giving to single friends, or is this the advice you're saying single friends who have this work ethic, career driven, and that's all they're doing 24/7? What advice are you giving those particular friends?
Those guys, this particular friend who's career driven, I've told this person, you just got to make some time.
Right.
You just got to make some time.
Right.
Unless, if you don't have intentions of making time, you're going to have to find someone who is okay with that.
Right.
This person isn't okay with that. Right. And again, that's an alignment problem. Like if and sometimes I think it goes back to what you said, Gatry. You know what you want, you just didn't really state it or communicate it in a clear way. This is what I'm looking for. This is my expectation of, you know, I'm going to work 60, 70 hours. I may have to cancel a date here and there. That's going to be kind of normal. Are you okay with that? But I think what happens is we just go on through the relationship, just going through the motions, and there's no communication. And you know, you got to give people the choice, and you got to lay all the cards on the table and give them the opportunity to make the decisions based on what you've put on the table, right? And I think with my homeboy, I was just like, let her know where you are. Like, let her know where you are. If you don't think you're going to concede or make time, she needs to know.
But here's the thing: sometimes it's hard to tell. Like, your friend can meet this woman and say, hey, I'm telling you ahead of time, you know, in so many words, I am always going to be on the go. You know, are you going to be able to handle this particular work ethic that I have? She can say yes. That's because she doesn't really know. Everybody's work ethic is different. Sure. And sometimes it takes being in the relationship or to start to date to truly determine if they can take that or not. So even if he's saying, I'm letting you know ahead of time, this is kind of how I am and this is what goes on in my life, and again, there are going to be times that dates are going to be missed, you're still not going to really know until, again, you're actually in that relationship. She's not going to know if she can accept that. She may say, yes, I understand. But she may have been thinking something differently.
Sure. And
then once they get into that, then they determine if that's something that they can deal with. Because his work ethic may not be my work ethic. I may get that same speech, and it works because it may just be a few days missed. And she may have been expecting a few days missed. Versus getting in a relationship, and this particular person works a little bit different or harder than me, and it's never happening, or it's way more than was expected. So that's the other thing. You know, you can give that speech in advance.
Mm-hmm.
But the common thread I'm hearing from both of y'all is communication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Open, honest communication.
Yes. But ahead of time, still, you can communicate that, and the other person may not know truly what your work ethic is and what that entails.
Well, do you believe in check-ins?
What do you mean by check-ins?
So when you mention you can talk about something on the front end, but then you get into it and you realize it's different from what you thought. Speaking anecdotally, when we date, even in our marriage, we'll check in like, "Hey, how are things going? How am I doing? How are you doing? Is this what you thought? You know,
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, like
I could never ask my wife.
let's call it.
Even though we all know what the answer is, but is this what you thought? No.
And that's okay.
Yeah, all right.
And that's okay.
You're hilarious.
But that's okay. But my thing is, okay, what do we do with whatever the answer is? Right?
I like that though. I like the check-ins. And really it's that moment, and like you said, even in marriages, it's that moment that you do have to kind of stop and say, is this working the way we expected this to work?
Mm-hmm.
And if the answer is no, then what do we do to change it?
Right.
Can we change it?
Yeah.
If the answer is no and you're not willing to make that change, then at some point, this is not going to work, period. So either one or two things have to occur. We're going to work at it. You brought it to my attention. We see this is not working. How do we make this work? And if there's no difference, or what you're discussing, you can tell I'm not going to change that, then nobody should waste their time any further.
Yeah. Getting back to your question that you asked me about my friend, is the $1 million question that I have for him is, what does compromise look like to you?
Right, because everybody's different.
Yeah, what does
is
compromise?
different.
Because you're gonna have to give something. Like it's an exchange. So
absolutely.
even you can come to a relationship with your cards on the table, but you gotta. I gave you the analogy before, Gatry, of your car, dependable, reliable, but you got to give that car something. You got to give it gas, depending on what kind of car you got, every week. Maybe a week and a half, you know what I mean? You got to take it to get service. In order for it to be for you what you need it to be, it needs something in return. And so if you want this relationship to be for you what you need it to be, you got to give her something. Yeah. You got to give it something. So there has to be a compromise on your end to ensure that the relationship is serving you and being for you what you want it to be. What does that look like?
And it depends on the compromise. It may be something that she may say, well, I think you should compromise on XYZ. But you may be saying to yourself, that's not something, I can compromise on some other things, but that's not it. That's not going to be one of them. And so you're back at square one.
Yeah.
You back to the breakdown of the relationship or of the marriage, because my husband may say, well, the compromise is you need to now become a stay-at-home mom. I'm sorry, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
Why not? Just kidding.
Oh,
I almost got her to do it.
I think it almost happened. The neck roll.
Yeah, you almost jerked your neck back.
I did.
They sworn in with a neck brace
I
on.
think it almost happened.
It sounds like, based off your analogy, I need to get a Carfax before I date to know what the history of it is.
And hey, I'm
That
okay
too.
with that.
Look,
I'm okay with that.
too.
Do your homework.
That
Do your
too.
research.
So again, it depends on the compromise. Again, if my husband is telling me, I need you to compromise as in work less hours, that's something I can understand and I can do. If he says compromise, like I said, you need to be a stay-at-home mom now, that's not going to work for us.
Right.
So find out what you want to do, what time you giving out, because that's not going to work for us, period. So one of us need to move on. One of us need to move out.
Right.
Flip a coin. You can have it. I don't care. But you know, at that point, I'm serious. We flip a coin. You can take whatever. I don't care.
Right.
You're not gonna fight for your marriage, Shank.
Oh no, I will fight for my
kidding.
marriage,
Just
but not
kidding.
that stay at home.
Not that agreement.
No, he can have that.
I gotta
one.
go to counseling after that.
I'm gonna be honest, the council not gonna work for the stay at home mom thing.
Wow.
Oh, I would not. I would not. That
So
would not be a
that is
compromise.
your deal breaker.
Oh, absolutely.
But-
Which is the blessing that's not my husband's situation.
Sure.
But that's when you look into the camera. That's not the situation.
Well played.
Can you make sure he watches this?
But I need to. I really should. But that would absolutely be my deal breaker. There's no counseling that can fix that.
Right.
And you know what counseling can fix.
Sure.
That is not a counseling situation. So he could flip that coin.
Adrienne, we all have them though.
Absolutely. Or should. We should all have that one
Yeah.
One thing that
compromise
you
that's
can't.
not going
Yeah.
to.
Non-negotiable.
Yeah.
And it should be reasonable too and expected. So for example, my husband should already know that that's not going to be something I compromise
I was
on.
thinking that.
Right,
You gotta know your partner, know your spouse.
So you
Yeah.
already
I
knew
think
that.
it's wrong to do that. I just think it's so wrong.
Do which part?
To not compromise. I'm just kidding. To
Oh my goodness. Where are we going?
No, I think it's wrong to act like you've been okay with that for this length of time just to throw that on someone. Like I think that's something, again, that's something that you talk about as you go along. If you feeling something, you know what I mean? That's just that's a blind side at that point.
It is.
That's a blind side at that point. So I think if something has changed, you owe it to yourself to make sure that you ain't tripping. And if you really do believe that, then you need to go to your spouse as soon as possible and say, hey, something, I don't know what, I'm feeling this way. I don't know why I'm feeling this way, but, at least try to work that out. And it could be something that y'all can talk through, and not necessarily that you got to adjust, but they need to, if they can determine where that's coming from, and maybe they can deal with that. It may not mean you an ultimatum or a crossroads for you two, hopefully. So.
I understand that. And that makes a lot of sense. That's true. It
Yeah.
could be, like you said, it's not the compromise itself. It's the reason that you want that to be the compromise.
Right.
And so let's get to the core of the issue and fix that. And I can still work and not be a stay-at-home mom, because
And
now we
maybe-
got down to the root of.
And maybe counseling could help that particular
I agree.
issue.
I agree.
Adrienne. All right.
When he has that face and he's like, Adrienne.
Adrienne. You said the W word, work.
Okay.
You hit the Powerball tomorrow. You gonna be a stay-at-home mom? Are you still going out there and get?
I am. I get bored easily.
Adrienne,
I get bored easily.
I see. I've been thinking my wife was like the only one in this category.
So
There are two of
Me and
you.
her should go out and
Y'all need
her to
to.
call me.
Y'all need to
but
all
I
jokes
feel
aside.
like we're just like meant to be best
Y'all
friends.
both too busy.
we
We will
play.
make time. We got it on a checklist. It's on the calendar.
And that would piss Gatry off.
Well, I mean, I would deal with it better now. But Adrienne,
You
we
make time for her, but you can just kidding.
we were in Tennessee. I think the Powerball hit like 999 million or something like that.
$1 billion.
Something like that. Yeah. My wife put her $2 in or whatever, and I was like, okay, I don't trip off that. I'm like, if you win this, what you doing? She's like, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna go to work on Wednesday.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I promise you, we had that same conversation, my husband and I.
But that's what purpose does for you, though.
True.
That's
true.
what purpose
and with
does.
her,
Right,
and
it's
especially
still
with you,
there.
Yeah.
with both of y'all, I can see that too. Like y'all
It's there.
are really into what you're doing. It makes everything different.
It's a passion.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're like you said. My husband and I, like I said before, had that same conversation. I think everybody in that conversation. He's like, would you still be a judge? Come January, we hit the Powerball. And I said, absolutely. And he was like, you like, what? You crazy.
Right.
And I
Shit, I
said,
ain't lining another Negro up. You done got your last cut.
But to your point, Adrienne, like
would have,
I think
absolutely.
about this whole podcast production stuff for me. It's kind of turned to a side hustle of sorts. If I Powerball it tomorrow, It's gonna look different, but I'm still gonna have that desire to produce. You know what I'm saying?
That's
to create.
That's it.
I'm gonna have better equipment. I'll be in a better spot, but we still gonna create though.
That's it.
Okay, I never put that together to just now.
That is it. I told my husband I would still be a judge. The only difference is they're probably gonna have to, say, Adrienne Powell, you're gonna have to work on Fridays. I'm like, I'm rich. I don't want to have quit on Fridays. So, it will probably change a little bit.
Right. But you're not going to be a stay-at-home mom, even with the Powerball.
No.
Fair.
I would be, it's just, I'll be so bored with life. Gotcha. And I know you say, but you'll be rich. Again, purpose. So, no.
Stay-at-home mom, you don't think motherhood would give you a different sense of purpose? Because it's not like you're staying home by yourself looking at the four walls.
Well,
just curious.
That's true.
Just
a question, Walker.
Okay.
Yeah, but I totally understand.
Okay.
And so I would say for someone else,
she sounds like she'll be a Walmart greeter all day before she stay at home.
Right. So for someone else, I think that is excellent. I think that gives them purpose to children. I am not knocking that at all. But for Adrienne Moffett-Powell, I can't be a stay-at-home mom.
Gotcha.
It just, for me, I personally believe there's not enough money in the world for that for me. And so again, I probably would be a little bit different in my career and even as a judge. Like I said, they may have to fuss at me because I'm not coming to work. Because I'm saying, well, I'm on this yacht. I see you Tuesday. I'm rich. What you fire me? Okay. It doesn't bother me. I'm a little bit more relaxed in my job, so I can see that occurring. But I'm going to need those days on the bench because I want to do that. I'm excited about that. I love that already, and not even there yet, but loving that. And so that's part of what I want to do. That's part of what makes my life worth it. Yeah. So I'm gonna have to keep doing it. And like I said, I'm gonna do the yachts, but I'll be back. I'll be back Tuesday. Get your divorce case heard on Tuesday.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. But let me ask you this. I was thinking about the whole evaluation, and it's possible for two people to do everything right in terms of dating. You communicate, you revisit, you tweak, and you get to a point where we're not a fit. We're not really compatible, right?
Oh, yeah.
Is that a failure in your opinion?
I wouldn't say failure. I am a divorce attorney. So this is something I see quite often. I see breakdowns of marriages. And because I primarily do this, I see breakdown of marriages almost 24/7. Like, it's all the time. It's part of my job, and that's just what I get on a daily basis. I wouldn't say it's a failure because I've had people to come into my office and say just that. Neither one of them blame each other. Most of the time, that's an uncontested divorce type situation. They're coming to an agreement. They're going to sign papers and move on. But I get people coming to my office, and neither blame the other. They said, we just grew apart. We tried the counseling. We realized it wasn't either party that was at fault. We just started wanting different things. We started finding other likes and dislikes, and we didn't have these particular things in common, i.e., we fell out of love. That's what you hear. We fell out of love. And so that's not unusual. I don't call that a failure because most of the time they've done everything to make it work, and they just realize they're now just two different people, especially with long-term marriages that happen. Or it could be a short one and they just learn each other better. And so when you have that, again, I don't see that they failed. I see that they have realized that something has changed. They've worked to correct the situation and realize it can't be correct, but not in a bad way. And so I actually commend the people that do that, that realize that and then say, hey, we can be friends. Let's not waste each other's time. Let's do the divorce and just kind of move on. This was fun, but we realize, again, things have changed, especially when you get people that, like my husband and I, we married We've been married, like I said, almost 14 years, but we met in high school. That could have easily went to the left. It could have easily been different because we're now starting to find each other, grow up to be adults, and you may not have in common what you thought you did, and that's okay. So it's not a failure. It's just a difference in who you are as a person.
And the reason why I ask that is because I think sometimes people look at it that way when a relationship, whether marriage or dating, especially dating, we look at it as just like life's over almost. You know what I mean? Yeah. We put so much rest upon the fate of a relationship, and I think. And I've shared with you, I was like, there's a lot of people who don't fit you. You're unique, right? And so your goal is just to find fit. And I think, especially if you've done your due diligence, you put the work in, the effort in, hopefully, and I think that's beautiful when you say that there's some marriages that people come together and it's resolved fairly simple, because to me, that shows me two individuals who have come to a place that even though the relationship is ended, they've grown.
Right.
And so you're not able to be, you don't have to resort to pettiness and bitterness and all that. That shows me someone who's stuck in time.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think I don't look at it as a fair, especially if you have been mature about it, you've grown through it, you've worked on you've worked on it. Mm-hmm. And you two have come to an agreement. I think that's I would love to see more of that. What do you think, Matt?
I agree. Yeah. It's just that kind of like the silos you were talking about, that analogy, like just merging and sharing that information.
Yeah, for sure. You got any more questions?
No. Do you have anything for us, Adrienne?
No, I was just gonna speak on the uncontested divorce thing, because that's what it's called. It's called an uncontested divorce when the parties are able to reach an agreement. All divorce attorneys, that's how we make our living. Absolutely. And I may have said this the last time I was here on the podcast. I don't have people to come in my office and just instantly say, oh, what we need to do. I want the house, I want the car, and add to the issue of the divorce. I don't necessarily do that. I am one of those divorce attorneys that say, well, have you talked to him or have you talked to her, and can we do an uncontested divorce? Before we just come out and seek the lawyer, go back and see if there's something that you all can reach an agreement on. See if you can be cordial about the situation. Sometimes that works, and then they come back, and the husband comes back, and we're in a room together, and we're signing the papers, and everybody moves on. I personally would love to see more of it. I would love to see more of, like you said, people doing uncontested divorces. You don't want, if you can help it, a judge to make those decisions. That's the first thing.
That's real.
I mean, seriously. And, certain judges give those speeches. I hear them from the judges here in Jefferson County. When we do mediations, we have mediation dockets. And so they'll bring the spouses in who have children. And they watch videos and they give speeches and kind of say, if we can have you guys reach an agreement on this. It's very similar to having like an uncontested divorce. If we can have you guys reach an agreement on this, we would love to see that. And they encourage that. And when I get on the bench, I would do the same, because I'm like that in my practice. Because what they say, you don't necessarily want to have. And now we're bringing the kids into it. I know we haven't really discussed the children, but you don't want to have someone who does not personally know you or your situation. Either one of you all don't know your children, don't know truly what's going on in your household, and all you have is lawyers to speak on your behalf, and within a day or two have to outline everything that has occurred in what may have been a 10-year marriage or something. And then we make a decision about your life, your children. Again, that's why I do encourage the uncontested divorces. That's why I do encourage the settlements. Again, it's not failure at all. It's big boy stuff, making big boy decisions. If you don't have to come in front of a judge for that, then don't. Because we hear just a little bit, and we stamped and changed everybody's lives.
That should be enough to make you just come back to the table and be like, hey, you sure you want to do this?
Yeah.
It should.
Yeah.
It should. And I think it does sometimes, but there are people
Adrienne,
that don't.
The thought of that just made a piece of my soul erode.
Hey,
Goodness gracious.
divorce court is
Every day,
real.
though.
Adrienne, can we rewind back? And I know the answer to this, but like, this is what you deal with on the daily.
I do.
And you run to it.
I do.
Adrienne.
I do.
With her fly sneakers on, she got
I do. But for me, it's not to see the suffering of what goes into divorces. It's for me, I run to it and love it because I like the law. I don't do it because I want to see children being in different homes, and I hate to see, people fight to that extent. I do it because I like the area of the law. Seriously, I like to read it. I like to apply. I just like to bring evidence and spell it out in front of a judge versus other areas. It just doesn't interest me as much. So that's why I do run to it. And don't get me wrong, it's a lot of trials and litigating that goes on in divorce court. I like trials. It's not necessarily what you see on TV. It has more flavor. We out there. We're not playing with them on the stand.
Right.
It's not a Perry Mason situation.
Oh no, I've seen them eyelids flutter. I know. I know what you like. I know what you like. I got a feeling.
So yeah, I like all of that, and you don't get as much of it in like civil court, and you may get a little bit of it in criminal, but in divorce we try so many cases, and so I like being in that area that I'm constantly having to put a witness on the stand and see if I can pull out what I want to pull out, see if I can get you right where I want you.
I got a question.
Black has his hand raised.
Like we're in a classroom. What are we doing?
Well, I was curious about the you said non-contested divorce.
Uncontested.
Mm-hmm. Do those typically happen when both parties go to the same lawyer?
Yes.
Okay. It's like if he gets a lawyer and she gets a lawyer, then it's probably not going to be.
It can still be filed as an uncontested divorce.
Okay. I was just wondering when two lawyers get involved, does it like make it more contentious or?
It can. It truly can. But it could still be an uncontested divorce even if two lawyers are involved. It just means that one lawyer filed. But normally when you have an uncontested divorce, you only have one attorney. I will say 100%. Lawyers can make situations worse. I've seen it. Because we go in ready to battle.
They're trying to win.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, we do. We
win.
go in ready to battle.
For sure.
And so, yes, we do tend to make it worse. But sometimes if you have an uncontested situation or if you believe that the parties are going to reach an agreement, the lawyers don't necessarily come out with their fangs out and claws out already because we're saying, oh, okay, this may be something that can be settled. And then we will try. But, yeah, divorce attorneys, we are a different breed. We absolutely can make a situation worse. I can't even pretend that we won't or don't. We do.
I just know when you were talking, it seemed like it made more sense. Like you would get the result of a uncontested divorce if you're dealing with one lawyer than it would be if you're dealing with two lawyers.
Yeah, and most of the time they do. The reason people sometimes bring in their own lawyer because they tend to not trust that one lawyer who's going to handle the uncontested divorce depending on which spouse has found him. And so what I have to happen at times, if the husband has come in and hired me and said, hey, this is going to be an uncontested divorce, sometimes the wife may say, well, how I know I can trust what you put in this paperwork, that this does not hurt me or I'm signing something that I probably shouldn't sign. So then what they'll do is they'll seek out another attorney. And like I said, I've had that happen. They'll seek out another attorney, provide them with the paperwork, and make sure their interest is taken care of.
Okay.
And so that's when you had two lawyers on the uncontested, but we still can reach an agreement, file it, and move on.
Okay.
So, just kind of wrap things up. Adrienne, what I'm understanding is if I'm a man dealing with a highly successful woman, I got to be understanding.
Yes.
Number one, I gotta communicate. I gotta communicate, and I gotta be unapologetic when I communicate. Be respectful, but unapologetic. And the biggest takeaway I've got is you got to really be intentional about really knowing what drives that woman.
Yeah.
And then once you get to that, you got to be willing to accept what all comes with that.
Right. Yep, I think that's it.
Okay.
I think you summed it all up, and like I said, the women, we understand too a little bit that we have to.
A little bit.
I'm not gonna even look in his direction.
He tried. He really tried.
You see, I never even turned my head. Because he want this head, he want these lashes. I'm not gonna give him this neck rub. I'm not gonna give him these lashes.
Come on. Give the people what they want, Shane.
No, that's what you want.
I'm the people.
True. So yes, it's a little bit. We have a role to play too.
I could have definitely benefited from this conversation 13 years ago.
Well, look, it turned out perfect.
Yeah, it did.
Hey, it worked itself out.
It did. We still together.
Shane, thanks so much for coming.
Yes.
Thank you all for having me.
Let
again.
the people know how they can get in touch with Judge-Elect.
Oh, well, this is going to be short term because at some point, like I said, I'll be closing my practice down. I'm blessed to be on the bench come January, but if you have something as small as an uncontested divorce or you just want to reach out to me, I would love that. My number is 205-332-3710. You can email me, amoffettpowell@gmail.com. That's AMOFFETTPOWELL@gmail.com.
Keep Your Point Podcast.